And so you founded this institution for religious tolerance,
Yeah.
Peace and justice. So are you teaching people to be more tolerant of all religion or all people? How is that working?
Right. And we call it the Institute for short, because I know it's a mouthful.
Right.
So
Institute of Religion.
for Religious Tolerance, Peace and Justice.
Institute for Religious Tolerance.
Tolerance, yeah.
So are you teaching people to be tolerant?
We teach people to be tolerant as much as possible with certain guidelines, because I wouldn't want to be tolerant of a Hitler or Nazi ideology. I don't think that is appropriate to allow people to walk all over other people,
Right.
to commit genocide, things like that. So tolerance certainly has its limits, but tolerance in terms of appreciating the shared humanity of all people, that we all bleed the same way, we have hopes and dreams, we have fears, I believe we come from the same God. So if we can be tolerant of certain, excuse me, if we can be tolerant of slight differences in belief, divergences, variations of belief, so that we can better understand each other and come to some type of common ground. Put down the swords and the guns, proverbially speaking, for a moment, and work on finding that common ground. What allows us to sit on the same stage together or at the same table together. And so that's what we're teaching people.
And so, I'm sorry,
Sure.
You believe there is good and evil?
I believe there is good and evil. Of course,
okay.
we'd have to define those, but I believe good and evil exist.
Right.
In people.
Right.
I might have good and evil intentions or impulses within me. You might as well. I mean, I even think of somebody like a Hitler. Of course, that's always the metaphor. What's the worst person you could think of? A Hitler, As a child, was he evil? I don't think he was evil. I mean, some of the things that I've read about him as a child, being severely beaten by his father, turning him into the guy who murdered upwards of 10 or 20 million people over the course of a decade, a variety of different ethnicities. What made him that way, I don't know, but I think he may have had good within him at some point in time. I think that if he is a creation of God, then he therefore had to have good within him.
You heard of Black Lives Matter?
Yes, sir, yeah.
They go around chanting no justice, no peace. They are, and I'm sure you agree with this being a Christian and a Jew, that they are far left, evil, radical organization, a bunch of fat, black, radical lesbian, right? Who hate God, who hate the country, who hate the Constitution, who hate nuclear families. They don't like marriage between a man and a woman. They hate the unborn children. Should we tolerate them?
Okay, so first, I don't know if I can agree with you with your assessment of members of Black Lives Matter in total.
The founders of fat, black, radical lesbian, who admit to being Marxist.
Okay, yeah, I don't know her personally.
So should we tolerate them?
Right. So I have friends and colleagues who are part of Black Lives Matter. I'm thinking of one woman right now off the top of my head.
Oh my God,
who,
you better run.
And she and I disagree on many things. But, I think she's a good human being with her heart in the right place. Maybe she has some ideas that I disagree with. And I think I would say the same thing regarding the overall movement of Black Lives Matter. And I know it's not an organization per se. They're
somewhat,
it's an
organization. They're lying again.
Well, my understanding is they're sort of decentralized.
No,
but even still, it's okay.
That's what the devil does. He deceives.
Sure.
So should we tolerate them?
I think we're going to have to tolerate them to some degree in order to have conversations with them.
What do we want to talk to them about?
Well, I mean, in the same way that any evangelist will talk to people about the gospel, you're sitting down with them, you're talking with them about Jesus. So in the same way, I want to talk with them about.
Should we tolerate them?
I think we need to tolerate their existence, their presence in our lives. Should we necessarily tolerate everything that they say or everything that they're putting forward? Not necessarily, and there's certain things about the Black Lives Matter platform that I certainly disagree with. One thing that I was thinking about regarding that one woman, and I won't say names, on social media recently she was talking about police and the existence of police. Now I have friends and colleagues that are police officers, and I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. Are all law enforcement by nature good people? Not necessarily, the same as any human being. There are good and bad in every group, including law enforcement. Now, her idea is that we need to abolish the police, we need to defund the police, and she said in her short, brief comment, she said, we need our own. And I think what she meant was that we need to sort of found a new form of law enforcement that's based on our needs as people of color, I think is what she was saying.
Would you agree that's an evil female?
No, I don't think she's evil. I just think I disagree with it.
She has to be evil to go along with evil. That's evil what she's thinking.
I think maybe she's misguided regarding those things.
Misguided with evil, though, right?
Maybe with evil impulses. I can't say she's evil.
Why not?
I think she's
she's evil.
Well, you may
based
say
on
so.
the information you gave.
I think she's a good person. She just may be misguided regarding certain things.
So should we tolerate the organization Black Lives Matter?
You know, we're in a democratic republic, and there's separation of church and state. We have First Amendment rights. I think we have to tolerate their existence as a nation, the same way as we tolerate the existence of the KKK and the neo-Nazis. I don't like them. I want to have conversations with them and change their minds, but we live in a democracy and we have to tolerate their existence you know, within the larger context of this constitutional republic, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You know?
What do you think of the blacks? They go out and they attack the cops, pigs in the blanket, kill them, you know, fry them like bacon. What do we want? Dead cops, Black Lives Matter, other chanting that. You have the blacks who are running from the cops, drawing weapons on the cops, attacking the cops. There are blacks who are like unemployed drug addicts like George Floyd. George Floyd was an unemployed drug addict with a criminal record. George Floyd is dead because of George Floyd and no one else. But yet the blacks are holding George Floyd up as a hero and blaming the cops for George Floyd. Should we tolerate that from the blacks?
Right, right. I know this is an issue that you feel passionate about. I've seen that in some of your other interviews. You know, I have sort of a middle ground stance on that because I do have a lot of problems with some of the standpoints of not only Black Lives Matter, but any of the organizations that have pulled together in the last couple of years to protest the police shootings of unarmed black men. Some of them, I believe...
These are all criminals. These are like
I
thugs.
can't say all of them. I mean, I'm looking
Name
at
one
Tamir
decent
Rice and Philando Castile, people like them. I think that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time and that some of these cops were not good people or maybe they just were not well trained. You know, some of those situations.
But who are those people?
Are you familiar with Philando Castile and Tamir Rice is the little kid. He was like
the one that
8 or 10-year-old kid.
He had the orange thing on the
yeah.
gun. They thought it was a real gun.
Yeah, and I've seen
someone
the
had
video.
called in and reported that this black guy in the park with a
comes to
gun.
a screeching stop, and without even a hello, kid, how are you? The cops are already
He
shooting
didn't look
at
like
him.
a kid. He had a gun, and he looked more than a kid. He looked like a young teenager,
Sure,
a big
sure.
teenage.
Yeah, I
Is
don't
that
know.
the cop fault or their fault, or Tamir Rice's fault?
You know, I wasn't there, and I wasn't on the
So
the
you're
jury.
not taking the side of the blacks then, right?
My humble opinion is this was an innocent kid, and this was either a cop
But you
who was
weren't
not
there.
well
Why
trained.
would you say he was
I know,
innocent?
it's just my opinion. Well, of course, all people are innocent until proven guilty.
Right. So
And
you
since
don't
he's
know.
dead, we can't
But
prove
maybe
him
the cops
guilty.
were innocent too, then, right?
Right, right. And
Okay.
I don't think those particular cops were brought to trial. I don't remember the details of that case.
Me either.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so many of them now
know.
because blacks are worshiping thugs as heroes.
And
Does that
is-
make you sick?
That is a concern I have. You know, there's a certain part of, you know, gangster culture that's sort of associated with the music industry that sort of reveres, you know, people who are not law-abiding citizens.
Right.
Drug users, drug dealers, et cetera. That's something that I don't like when I see it within certain aspects of rap culture, hip-hop culture, et cetera. You know, I know you have certain, you know, certain standpoints on this. I don't want to blame black culture. I don't want to blame any particular people, but it's something that I find not positive about the music industry.
Yeah.
You know?
But look at black people like out of control anyway. Not all, but most, right?
You're not out of control.
They
You know?
call good evil and evil good. Most black people do. The Christians and all of them. What do you think about that?
Well, I know over the last 30 or 40 years, there's been that tendency to kind of label the bad the good. You know, you got to be bad to be good.
Right.
We've seen that a lot in in our culture in the last 30 or 40 years. I'm not going to blame any one ethnicity or culture or race. It's something that I think it has served the media, and I think the media is kind of promoting that to, you know, to sell tickets, to sell newspapers, whatever it is. You know, they say if it leads, it bleeds. The media tends to promote things that are negative,
But if
divisive.
the blacks were not acting out, the media can't promote something that's not there. Am I
Well,
right?
I don't know. There might be a few folks who are African American who have been acting out, and you
There
know,
might
the media leapt onto that. I don't know.